vacation, you want to eat. So he ate everything that California had to offer. Okay. So unfortunately, we were at the wineries, one of the wineries in Temecula, and we had dinner there or lunch, and he straight to the bathroom. He had dumping syndrome, and not only just that, but what happens? These patients actually can faint. Okay. So let me explain what happens. So basically, they eat. So when they eat the food, what happens is that because the GI area is shortened, it actually disrupts the whole metabolism process. So what will happen here, they'll eat the food and then they'll go into an extreme state of hyperglycemia. Okay, so glucose will spike because it's not metabolizing as it should. When the glucose spikes, at that point around that time, they will have a lot of cramping, diarrhea, and then they will then go through extreme diarrhea. And then what will happen is they'll have what is called like a rebound hypoglycemia. So they will then have an extreme drop in blood glucose. Okay, so this is the situation here. Once that happens, please keep in mind that these patients can get very weak. Okay, and they even show you here this happens 2 to 3 hours later after they eat, because the body's trying to alter, but for some reason it doesn't alter or keep the glycemic levels where it should be. Okay, because of the fact that it's not absorbing the food the way it's supposed to be. So that's that. Now, signs and symptoms here: diarrhea, abdominal pain. They will have a fall in glucose levels 1 to 3 hours after a meal. Please highlight that. And what is called a rebound hypoglycemia. So keep in mind, we already know that when we eat a meal, we do have normal hyperglycemia. Okay, so we know that the glucose levels are going to get elevated. That's normal. And then the body will normalize itself by either kicking in insulin or taking up the glucose into the liver cells or whatever. But the problem here is that these individuals cannot control the way their glucose is being absorbed in their bodies, okay, because again, the metabolism is off. So they will go into an extreme drop in hypoglycemia, especially once they go through the diarrhea and the pain. The treatment here is to give them small meals. Okay, small meals throughout the day, and what that does, and this makes sense, if you give them small meals, what is that going to do for their glycemic level? It's going to pretty much keep it stable. Okay, so it's, you know, if you give them a large meal, that's definitely going to be too much for the body. So giving them small meals, reducing carbs, because that's also the issue with the glucose levels, as you know, with breaking down, because that's the issue there, and any type of medication for diarrhea. Now, short bowel syndrome. We have a lot of syndromes here. Now, short bowel syndrome, what does this mean? Just to sum this up, this is when, for an example, if a patient has, let's say for example, they have some sort of obstruction in the intestines, and they have to take out a large portion of the intestines, small intestines in this situation. What is the one main thing that you would think of if someone was to have their small intestines removed would be an issue? Absorption. Very good, absorption. These patients will be really depleted of all of their nutritional vitamins, okay, that they should be getting from their diet. So, the treatment here is temporary or indefinite intravenous nutritional support, okay, and that all depends on the severity of how much intestines is being taken out. So, diarrhea and malabsorption would definitely be a sign and symptom. Okay, now, the last little piece we're going to finish up here is with cancers. And I'll try to run through this really quickly. Esophageal cancer, okay, they give you the stats there, men more common than women. Risk factors can be genetic. Please keep in mind that they don't have here, but although they do have it here, cigarette smoking is also a big culprit with esophageal cancer. Barrett's esophagus, which we went over already in the beginning of this chapter, okay, it's also a cause of that. Esophageal cancer, although it's not that common, it does have a very poor prognosis if a person does get this. And it's because of the fact that the epithelium in that region has a high degree of turning over into a metaplasia, dysplasia, and just really now, and then also metastasizing. So that's the issue there. Okay. Gastric carcinoma, prevalence in Japan 10 times higher than the U.S. Not quite sure why, and one of the students I think was looking this up and said it had something to do with the diet. I'm not quite sure exactly what's in the diet. That sushi? No, I don't think it's that. It's I don't know if it's, somebody said soy, something about soy. And I don't know exactly what it is, but in any event.
I heard that they have propensity to develop testicle cancer or something from soy.
Okay, so maybe it's the soy. Okay, so maybe it is the soy. So it's something with soy, the chemical makeup of soy that actually produces this kind of situation. So in any event, please understand too that the risk factor, and I told you this already, is H. pylori. Okay, don't forget that. H. pylori infection, dietary habits, and sometimes environmental. That's a picture there, what it looks like. Now, small intestinal neoplasias, all this means is that sometimes people can get little tumors, maybe benign or malignant, okay, in the small intestines. Very unusual in the small intestines, okay. Most of the times when you see these types of things, it's usually in the large intestines. And we'll go over polyps in a second. Okay. But if they do have that, they can obstruct the bowels, obviously, or obstruct motility, and so therefore they would have to be removed. Colonic polyps. Okay, so this one is quite common, more common than small intestinal type polyps. These can be benign or malignant. Usually when people do know they have a polyp, or when people go in for the colonoscopy and so forth, and they'll see that there's a polyp, and sometimes they can remove these things and look at them and see what's going on. So signs and symptoms here, sometimes there's usually people don't know they have a polyp unless it starts to obstruct an area and cause them to have different signs and symptoms. And the treatment depends on the size of it and the location. But I do believe when they go in for the colonoscopy, and this is a nice little picture showing you here, I do believe when people go in for the colonoscopy, if they see these, they can just kind of take them out right at that moment. You understand it, depending on the location. Colon cancer, I think this is the last one. Colon cancer risk factors here, they give you the age, high fat, low fiber. Usually people that have, I don't want to say polyp, but chronic polyps. They say usually chronic polyps or polyps can lead into a colon cancer. But not to say that every person with a colonic polyp is going to have cancer. So I don't want you to think that. Okay. Now, warning signs, and I think I went over, oh, maybe I didn't go over this. Warning signs of cancer. One thing I do want you to know first with warning signs of cancer, this type of cancer, colon cancer. Change in bowel habits. Okay, please jot that down. Change in bowel habits. That's the number one thing, and then we'll go over the types of bowel habits. So we are all adults, and by now, as an adult, you should know your bowel habit. Okay, and not to get into your bowel habit, whether you go in the morning or whatever. So now, what happens is these individuals will have a change, meaning that they'll be going outside of their normal routine. Okay, so then they'll start to have more diarrhea, maybe more constipation, maybe going more frequently. And then not only that, when you look at your stool, and everyone should look at their stool and not to be nasty, but this is how you can tell what's going on with your body. If you look at your stool and you'll see that it's black, tarry, pencil shape, that's not a good sign.
Why is it pencil shape?
I don't, probably from obstruction, but the other thing too is, keep in mind, being that it's black, that it's a cold, so there's definitely some sort of disease process going on. And like you said, you get a pencil shape probably from a polyp or something that's obstructing inside the wall. Oh, you said, oh, I'm sorry, you said it. I'm sorry, I'm pointing at you. I know it came from this way.
The telescoping causes it too.
The telescoping causing the pencil shape, okay. So, please keep in mind that actually we had an instructor here that was very nervous because she had black stool. That's like an immediate, gotta go and get that tested, okay, because that's not normal. So, change in bowel habits. No, I'm not telling you who it is.
No. I'm saying you should just bring that up in the break room, like, hey,
No,
Look at my Instagram.
no, she's can't get told because she had to take some time off, get that taken care of. And then another thing too is pain. Okay, I knew a person with colon cancer, and I think I told you the story. He just thought he needed to come in and see me out, to get a chiropractic adjustment because he thought he just had back pain. But keep in mind that sometimes patients can have what is called visceral somatic pain. So patients can have pain like such as a back pain or muscle pain that can be mimicking something else that's going on internal. Okay. So a dull ache in the rectal and sacral area. And rectal fullness, that's another sign too I would highlight. When a person feels that they have rectal fullness all the time, even though you haven't ate much or not much is going on there, and you have rectal fullness, that's not a good sign. That's saying that something is there, some sort of obstruction. Okay. Prognosis better with early detection, as we can imagine, follows the same process of the TMM and staging and all that we talked about with cancer. You don't have to worry about this chart. And so the treatment is, they say surgery, chemo, and radiation, or sometimes they do a combination of all three. Okay, because I know the person I know, he had all three done. Can you turn that off? Thank you.